Welcome everyone to Community IT Innovators Voices interview series. My name is Carolyn Woodard, and today I'm interviewing David Dawson. And so David, would you like to introduce yourself and your job title at Community IT?
Sure, I'm David Dawson. I'm a senior engineer, systems engineer here at Community IT, and I've been with Community IT since May of 2001, 21 years ago.
So what are your job responsibilities? What do you do all day?
Well, Community IT, at Community IT here, I take escalations, all of our technical issues. One of our clients has a problem, whether that's with an individual person, they're having trouble with their computer, services, passwords, or the organization's having some problems, slow internet, backups aren't working, Wi-Fi is not working, then our help desk will take a stab at it, open up tickets, and sometimes they'll escalate things. And and then I will take those escalations. I'm on part of a team that will take escalations, and because I've been with Community IT for so long, and I've worked with so many of our products. I'll take the escalations even from other people who are sort of the escalation technicians as well. So there's probably about 6 of us, I'd say, and I'm one of the 2 or 3 people who have been here for a very long time.
I think that's definitely one of the advantages at Community IT is that when you call our help desk, you have there are other more senior people that also are on the help desk. So if you have a really complicated problem, it doesn't take a lot of running around to try and find someone who can address it. You can get to someone pretty quickly, like yourself.
I agree. I think we've scaled it very well. We have such a strong help desk team. Honestly, I'm always humbled, amazed by the help desk team. How much there's so many people on that help desk team who have they learn so fast. And there's less and less that they're escalating to me. And I feel like there have been times, there are periods of time throughout the year when I just feel like I'm just sort of twiddling my thumbs. And then I find out the reason I'm doing that is because the help desk team is just solving some really complicated things. I'll help them, and I feel like it's in my interest in helping them, in helping our clients to sometimes instead of escalating things, they know they can just communicate with me by Teams, and so I'll just give them some tips, some pointers, and they're just very eager to learn. And so they'll just take a little morsel that I give them and go running with it, and then I don't ever hear about that problem again. So it's really amazing. And so by the time that it's escalated to me, sometimes they've just run at it for as long as they can. They have some metrics as well. They're trying to solve problems in 15 or 30 minutes. There's different metrics, and they just feel like it's already way beyond them. So they'll send it to me, and I like these little puzzles as well. So
yeah,
that's what I do.
The goal is to get the clients working again smoothly as quickly as possible. So
that's right. That's right.
Did you start on the help desk? Is that where your career began?
Well, Community IT, of course, as you could imagine, has shifted so much in 20 years. When I started, I like to say that it felt more like we were a loose band of independent consultants. We had one HR and payroll department, which was great. I didn't want to, before coming to Community IT, I thought, well, here are some things that I could do. I could be an independent consultant. I could work for a large firm, like Best Buy, Geek Squad, whatever, something like that, or large firm, or I could go work for a small firm. We'll talk a little bit more about how I came to Community IT later. But one thing I never wanted to do was be an HR person. I didn't want to do any sales. I didn't want to do any, bringing on clients. And so I came to Community IT, and it really felt like we were a loose band of independent consultants because we were doing everything. We were writing proposals. We were we did all the escalations ourselves. If we needed help, we would send an email to our team of colleagues, and they'd say, try this or try that, or this is the server you should buy, or this is what you should do if your internet connection is down. It was tough, and the story of the last 20 years has really been about, as the company has matured, we've built those structures, and so we didn't have a help desk team back then. So we were the help desk and we were the escalation person. So I love doing all that, but it was really exhausting. But yeah, we didn't have a help desk. Now we have a very, very strong help desk.
I feel like it also reflects that the nonprofit community around technology has also matured in 20 years. I know when I started out, there was a lot of the accidental techie doing this or that, or just not prioritizing IT as a business need and a business requirement, basically, that you could just throw it on to someone at your organization who could try and figure out what you should do. And that we've seen that become a lot more professionalized. And you've seen that as well in your job.
Yes, I think so. I think about the clients that we used to have who were really, IT was a sort of a black hole where costs went, and they wanted to save. They wanted to put all their money into programs. And this is the typical idea of, I think a lot of people think about nonprofits, that they just, people who are mission driven, they just want to put all their money into whatever, saving the world. But I've learned a lot about nonprofits as well. And I think nonprofits are, like a lot of businesses, they have to have a very well-defined, they have to have departments that are handling all the different parts, including whatever, governance and finance and also marketing, but also running their campaigns and saving people and saving the world as well. I do think about these small organizations. Community IT has changed as well. We still have organizations that are like 5, 10 people. I think that used to be much more of our bulk, that we would have these much smaller organizations. But as we've scaled, we've also been able to take on organizations that are up to 200 people. And this has presented a lot of opportunity for us to scale our own business and to learn and to professionalize and these things. So I do wonder, sometimes I think about whether nonprofits have changed, and sometimes I think it's us that has changed a lot as well.
I think that's true. I think technology as well. So I think 20 years ago, you didn't have all of the online tools and kind of more low cost or no cost startup tools, IT tools that you could manage yourself if you were starting a nonprofit. And I think now we see a little bit more of nonprofits that have started out being kind of tech savvy and doing their own thing, but then they get to a size and an age and a maturity where they realize that they can't just manage 200 staff members, as you said, internally. So then they can turn to an MSP, outsourced IT.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing about your job? What do you like to do at your job?
Here's what I tell people. I love puzzles. I love puzzles. I love when people bring me things that are very confusing. Boxes that these puzzles that we have to take apart, figure out what's going on, and then figure out how to put them back together. That's one way that I characterize or define or describe what I really love about my job. And I also love rushing into burning buildings. I hate to say it. I mean, by the time escalations come to me, then there's a problem. I mean, it's not like I'm not rushing in to build a new network or bring in new servers or something like that. We do have a projects team that's dedicated to that. But by the time escalations are brought to me, then there is a fire. And I love rushing in there and not knowing if things are just about to fall apart. And I love being able to solve them. It is. I have to be able to bring my experience, and stay level-headed about it. I have to be able to bring my experience, and then very, very quickly be able to assess where's the problem. And that's what I really love doing, is to be able to quickly identify where's our problem. And so we, in my horrible metaphor here, just aim the fire hose at this problem. There could be, we're trying to separate all the symptoms and the cacophony of phone calls or people complaining and then determine exactly where the problem is. And that's what I really enjoy, I guess, being able to put that fire out.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about your origin story? Do you remember when you applied to community IT and what it was about community IT that drew you in?
I do. Yeah, sure. I'd love that. It's funny, 21 years, and anybody working at, anyone, anywhere, I mean, it's a long time, 21 years. And I still remember it like it was yesterday. And I was working for a large corporation, and I'd started there around about 97, 98, something like that, before Y2K. And I had a long commute. I lived in Washington, D.C. I had to drive out to Reston. I had a long commute, but the job was, working for a large corporation. There's tons of resources. I could get lots of training. I could do, and I had a very steady, I had a good steady paycheck that I knew would grow at a certain rate, and I could get lots of training. And and but I had a friend who worked in she had a habit of starting nonprofits. She had a very magnetic personality, and she was good at starting nonprofits because she would just say, "Here's something that I'm really interested in," and lots of people would just flock to her and say, like, "I'd love to help. How can I help?" Whether that's evenings, weekends, or like in my case, I just come evenings, weekends, and she would. And I remember that she had she was opening up this office, and I said, well, I can help with the IT. This is what I'm good at. And so I helped her to wire that office and set up the internet, set up her email, all this stuff. And I just remember how much fun that was. Anyway, so I thought I could either stay with this company and just donate a lot of money to nonprofits and participate that way, or I could just sort of stop that job at this large corporation and work in the nonprofit space and see what happened. And it was right about this time that I saw a lot of things came together at the same time. I saw my girlfriend at the time, who was a Mennonite, had she subscribed to this magazine that, like all Mennonites do, and David Deal was on the cover with his wife Janessa. He had just moved to Washington D.C. A couple years prior. He was doing some volunteer work, and then this article was talking about this organization that he wanted to start to serve nonprofits. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then I found out that some people that I went to church with were customers of this brand new company. And I thought all these things were coming together, my values and these news stories and these social connections. And I thought, well, I could do this. I was single. I was single, unmarried at the time, and I thought my only responsibilities are to my cat and to my school loans. And so if this thing blows up, what's the worst that could happen? I'll just have to go back and see if I can get the job at this large corporation again. I was really nervous about it. So I thought about it for a long time, and I thought there's never going to be another opportunity like this. So that's why I came to work at Community IT. I thought I could work for, serving nonprofits full time. I would have to take a very big cut in pay, although we can go back to that also. It has, since the company has done so well, and we've been able to pay competitive salaries, which I'm very, very proud of. Being with Community IT, I have to say I am very proud of that. So anyway, so I made that jump. I took 2 weeks off between my corporate job and my and starting the Community IT. I had always had a job, basically always had a job since I was about 13, like some part-time job or even through college. And this was a really scary thing for me, taking a couple of weeks off. And I spent it was kind of a sabbatical for me, and I learned how to sail, and I was really excited about that. I haven't done much sailing since then, but I really had a great time doing that. And but I was also very nervous about coming to work at this startup, thinking, it may not be here in a couple of weeks. What am I doing? This is such a stupid thing to do. And the first day I started, all my anxiousness was allayed. I met some really fantastic people. I met back then, I think there were probably about 20 staff or so. And so I made the point of going around and introducing myself to each person and just seeing some of the tools that we had and some of my first responsibilities, that it was really, really exciting right from the very beginning.
What a great story of back in the day. I know that you talked a little bit about like having a corporate career and working at a place like Community IT. And I think a lot of young people like high school, college who are thinking about an IT career are thinking of the corporate jobs. So would you talk a little bit about the payoffs and kind of how you thought about it? And then also just are there any ways to help younger people think about the different options in IT careers, and kind of what would you say to that as well to keep that open?
Yeah, that's such a tough thing. I'd say there's two main things that you really need to think about as a young person, or giving myself advice. If I was like 15 years old, there's two questions. One is, who are you? What are you good at? What are the things that you really like? This is a question that, as you know, Carolyn, as anybody knows, it's a question that you're continuing to ask yourself throughout your whole life. And when the career counselors or the guidance counselors ask you this in high school, they make it sound like, it's a one and done kind of a thing. Like, well, this is who I am. This is what I'm good at. This is the kind of thing I'm looking for. It's not. This changes throughout your whole life, and you never really define it. So that is a very important thing right at the very beginning. I think a career in IT, like a career in medicine, but honestly, a career in plumbing or, lots of other things, you can find yourself in that. So it is really tough. I think technology right now makes a lot of sense because it's just so flexible, and there's so many. It's just continuing to mature all the time. I'm baffled that 15 years ago we were saying that there's going to be an urgent need for security professionals, IT security professionals, and today that alarm is still ringing. We're still clamoring for this stuff. So I think that that a career in IT is really a good pursuit, and it's a very safe one. It's a very it's going to be around for a long time, and you can find your way to a career in IT, whether that's whatever skill you want to bring. So it's not just large corporations like whatever everybody's thinking about, Google, Microsoft, Apple. These are probably great employers. It's possible that the golden years are over and you're not going to have these fun workplaces with the foosball table behind you and catered meals and high-end gym memberships. Probably that's going to change. But rather than thinking about the large organizations, there's so many small organizations also thinking about community IT. So the second thing to think about, I think, is really whether you work for large corporations or small corporations. And I'm going to trumpet, of course, community ITs. What the great things about community IT that I think would be good to look at in whatever place you go to look at for working, which is how does the organization really want to present itself? So things like equity, things like values, things like a couple things that structurally community IT does is like we are overtly a B-corp. B-corps are not recognized by a lot of municipalities, but there's a value statement that's made when we say we're a B-corp. And another one is, I can't emphasize how important this is for our values, is an employee-owned company. I think that's why there's so much success at community IT. It's certainly one of the large things that's keeping me at community IT. Of course, matching what I'm good at with what the company needs. Of course, that's the main thing. But a very big part of that also is that it's a employee-owned company, and so coming from that is so much. It's structurally it says so much. It requires so much of the company to the employees, and it also requires so much from the employees as well. So I would say for any young person looking for employment, that's really what you want to pursue, who you are, and putting companies that are on the short list that, show that there's some value that match your values as well.
I think a lot of employees that I've talked to talk about the ability to combine, an interest in and affinity for nonprofits and the work that they do with the ability to support them through IT. So it's like you kind of get the best of both of those worlds. And so, it helps you feel fulfilled while you're doing your job because you're helping the clients that are saving the world, as you said earlier.
Yeah. Um, um, Steve Jobs said something that really I think about, reminds me of community IT a lot. So Steve Jobs says, Apple really exists at the intersection of technology and liberal arts. And I think that I think about that, and the first time I heard it, and all the time that I hear it, I always think about community IT really existing at that intersection between IT and nonprofit organizations. So, and if somebody wants a one sentence description of what community IT is, that's what I say. We exist at that intersection. So I'm very grateful that I found this this company that's doing that. I think that working with nonprofits, mission-driven organizations, really affords us really a benefit that's really intangible. To understand that there's mission-driven organizations that there are people who are sort of focused on saving the world, saving the oceans, saving homeless people, saving hungry people. And I'm so grateful that we have this opportunity to just be part of that mission.
I think in the modern world, if your IT doesn't work, you can't do those things. Like your office just can't function if the IT isn't working. So that helps us help them for sure. Is there something about your job that you thought you knew going into it that turned out to be totally different from what you expected that you could share?
Um, um, this is the same thing when you're working with a large corporation. There's kind of silos. It's like, this is your job description. Well, this is what you do. If you're doing something else, then go back and look at your job description again. And I think especially at community IT, there's opportunities to really to specialize, and that I get, maybe that was one thing that I was not really expecting. I was expecting that it would be very well defined. And also, now that I think about it, when I worked for a large corporation, that is what was expected of us, that we would just, you stay in your lane. And coming to community IT, that was at the very beginning a little bit made me very uncomfortable. That we could just just hop over a couple of lanes whenever, or I would see other people doing it, and I'm just like, why is that person not not staying in their lane? And maybe that's kind of a benefit, and that's sort of built into small organizations. That certainly at community IT, that people who want to think big, who want to think the big planning, planning over the whole year. That's what they gravitated to, and then we developed this projects team, or this IT business management team. And I mean, it wasn't just sort of ad hoc and accidental, certainly. Oh, I'm not saying that whatsoever, but I love doing the nitty gritty, solving one problem at a time. And maybe that's so I've been able to really make a career out of that. Yeah. So I could probably talk a lot about technology and how that's evolved as well. But I think it's probably more interesting to think about sort of how at community IT our roles and our structures and our relationships have evolved as well.
I think that's something that I've heard from other people I've talked to, and it's a strength, I think, of community IT, that there is not a rigid job description, and that you're stuck doing that, and that you have to do something extraordinary to be able to move teams. It's like where there's a need or an interest or there's a lot of creativity involved, which I didn't really think of when I first started out in IT. But I think that's another strength of community ITs, is having people with a lot of experience and the ability to take initiative and, as you said, like follow the problem. If it's a problem that's gotten as far as you, it's going to be complicated. And so being able to take initiative and be entrepreneurial and creative about coming up with a solution, I think is important, and something that community IT really rewards people who are able to think creatively, for
I
sure.
think so. I think so.
So you were saying that one thing you wanted to say about your job and about what you bring to the job.
Yes. One of the things that doing escalations, one of the things I have to sometimes do is figure out where the problem is. So somebody has a problem, whatever, Outlook's not working or Wi-Fi's not working or whatever. It's like, I have to hear and I have to listen for not just what they're saying about the problem, but what they're not saying. And so, and then I have to guide them to, if I have any more questions, so narrow it down, help me narrow it down. Aha, here we go. This is where the problem is. Because without my hands on the keyboard, I can solve a lot of the problem just by saying, tell me more about it.
But I like what you said about almost being like in a partnership with that person who's having the problem that's not an IT specialist. Because I know also when I've been on, the call on a, help desk support, talking to someone about it, it's like you are the person who knows what the problem is, but you don't know the IT. And then on the other end, you've got the person who knows the IT. And if they don't partner with you on understanding what the problem is, what it's doing that it's not supposed to be doing or should be doing, et cetera, then you're losing that resource, that person who has the firsthand experience of what is not working right. So I love the way you put it, of just really listening.
If I can partner with them and really let them know that I'm hearing them, and then I'm looking at the problem with them, not in a confrontational way, but this really helps you in your professional life as well. Just listen to people.
Thank you so much, David, for your time today. I really appreciate talking to you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much for this time.